Welcome everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm excited to kick off our session on mobile systems security. Today, we're focusing on Lecture 2, which is all about mobile services. My name is Professor Mahmoud El-Kouli, and I'll be guiding you through this topic. Over the course of this presentation, we'll explore the key concepts, challenges, and security considerations related to mobile services. So, let's get started and dive into the world of mobile systems security. Let's dive into some fundamentals of WAP and mobile HTML security. First, we'll look at WAP and mobile HTML basics. These technologies enable mobile devices to access web content, but they also introduce unique security challenges. Understanding how these systems work is key to protecting user data. Next, we'll discuss authentication on WAP and mobile HTML sites. Ensuring that users are who they claim to be is crucial, especially since mobile devices are often more vulnerable to theft or unauthorized access. Proper authentication mechanisms help prevent unauthorized use. Then we have encryption. This is about protecting the data transmitted between the device and the server. Encryption helps ensure that sensitive information like passwords or personal data isn't intercepted and read by malicious actors. Moving on to application attacks on mobile HTML sites. Just like with traditional websites, mobile sites can be targeted by various attack types, including injection attacks, session hijacking, or malware. Recognizing these threats is essential for implementing effective defenses. Finally, we'll look at WAP and mobile browser weaknesses. Mobile browsers and WAP gateways can have their own vulnerabilities, such as outdated protocols or inadequate security controls, which attackers can exploit. Overall, understanding these aspects helps us appreciate the importance of security measures tailored specifically for mobile environments, ensuring safer browsing experiences for users everywhere. Let's start with WAP and mobile HTML basics. WAP, or Wireless Application Protocol, is essentially a method that allows us to access the internet directly from our mobile devices. It's designed to make browsing on the go possible, even with limited bandwidth and small screens. Now, when we talk about WAP, there's an important component called the WAP gateway. Think of it like a middleman or proxy server that sits between your mobile device and the internet. Its main job is to translate the content from standard web formats into a form that your mobile device can understand and display properly. This translation is crucial because traditional web content isn't always optimized for mobile viewing. Moving on, WAP 2 brought a significant change. Unlike earlier versions, WAP 2 doesn't require a WAP gateway anymore. This means it can communicate directly with standard web servers, simplifying the architecture and improving performance. Finally, let's touch on WAP architecture. It's the framework that supports all this functionality, ensuring that mobile devices can efficiently access and display web content. Understanding this architecture is key to grasping how mobile web browsing has evolved over time and how these components work together to give us a seamless browsing experience. Let's talk about authentication on WAP and mobile HTML sites. One of the biggest challenges developers face with these platforms is the keyboard. As you can see here, there are two main types: PDA-style keyboards and non-PDA-style keyboards. With PDA-style keyboards, typing complex passwords that include letters, numbers, and special characters is much easier. But when it comes to non-PDA-style keyboards, which are more like traditional phone keypads, it becomes quite difficult. Strong passwords are crucial for security, but they can be hard to enter on non-PDA keyboards because of the limited input options. This creates a real tension between maintaining strong security and providing a user-friendly experience. So, understanding this keyboard limitation is key to designing better authentication methods for mobile users. It's all about balancing security needs with usability, especially given the constraints of mobile device input methods. Let's talk about authentication on WAP and mobile HTML sites. One common method is using a mobile PIN, which serves as an alternative to complex passwords. While it can improve the user experience because it's easier to remember and enter, it does come with some trade-offs. Specifically, it tends to lower the security level of the authentication process. A typical PIN is just 4 to 8 digits long, which makes it more vulnerable to brute force attacks, since there are fewer combinations to try. Another important point is the crossover use of SMS and WAP or mobile HTML applications. For example, if you send an SMS message to a predefined number, you might get back sensitive information like your account balance. And this can happen as long as the caller ID value is correct. But here, where the security concern comes in, spoofing caller ID is actually quite simple to do. That means an attacker can fake the caller ID, making it look like a trusted number, which exposes this method to potential fraud or unauthorized access. So, in summary, while these methods offer convenience, they also introduce significant security vulnerabilities that we need to be aware of. Let's talk about encryption, which is a crucial part of online security. SSL and TLS are essential for keeping sensitive information private when you're browsing the internet. They help ensure that data like passwords or credit card numbers aren't intercepted by malicious parties. Now, in the early days with WAP1, TLS was used, but it wasn't end-to-end. This was mainly because mobile devices at the time had limited processing power, so full TLS implementation wasn't feasible. To address similar bandwidth constraints, WTLS was developed. It's quite similar to TLS, but optimized for low-bandwidth data channels that can't support the full TLS protocol. This way, it still provides security without overwhelming the device's capabilities. So, in summary, WAP1 incorporated transport encryption methods that balanced security with the technological limitations of mobile devices. This highlights how security protocols evolve to meet the needs of different environments, ensuring users still get protected connections even on less powerful devices. Let's talk about encryption in WAP2. One of the key improvements is that it now supports full end-to-end TLS, which really helps eliminate the so-called WAP gap. This gap was a security weakness where data could be vulnerable during transmission. With TLS, data remains encrypted all the way from the device to the server, ensuring much better security. Additionally, the WAP gateway is now optional. This means it can be used for optimization purposes if needed, but it's no longer a mandatory part of the setup. This flexibility allows for more streamlined and secure communication pathways. Another important point is that WTLS, which was previously used for security in earlier versions, is no longer needed in WAP2. Instead, we rely on transport encryption through TLS, which is more robust and widely adopted. Overall, these changes mean that WAP2 offers much stronger security through transport encryption, making mobile data transmissions safer, more reliable, and more aligned with modern security standards. Now, let's talk about application attacks on mobile HTML sites. Many of the traditional web application attacks that we're familiar with also affect mobile browsers and devices that support WAP2X or mobile HTML sites. This means that vulnerabilities we've seen on desktop sites are often just as relevant here. For example, cross-site scripting, or XSS, can occur on mobile sites just like on regular websites, allowing attackers to inject malicious scripts that can steal data or hijack sessions. Similarly, SQL injection is a threat that can compromise databases if input validation isn't properly handled, and this can happen whether the user is on a desktop or a mobile device. Cross-site request forgery, or CSRF, is another concern. It tricks authenticated users into unknowingly performing actions they didn't intend, which can be especially dangerous on mobile, where users might be less vigilant. HTTP redirects can also be exploited to lead users to malicious sites without their knowledge. Phishing is a significant threat as well. Attackers often craft convincing fake pages to steal login credentials, and mobile devices are no exception. Session fixation attacks can hijack user sessions by forcing the victim to use a known session ID, and this can be exploited on mobile sites too. Another important point is the issue of non-SSL logins. When sites don't encrypt login credentials with SSL, attackers can intercept sensitive data, and this vulnerability remains critical on mobile sites. Overall, the key takeaway here is that these attack vectors are not limited to traditional desktops. They are equally relevant and potentially more dangerous on mobile HTML sites, emphasizing the need for robust security measures across all platforms. Let's take a closer look at some of the weaknesses associated with WAP and mobile browsers. First, one key issue is the lack of support for the HTTP-only flag. This flag is crucial for enhancing security because it helps prevent client-side scripts from accessing cookies, reducing the risk of cross-site scripting attacks. Unfortunately, many WAP and mobile browsers don't support this feature, making cookies more vulnerable. Next, we have the lack of support for the secure flag. This flag is important because it ensures cookies are only transmitted over secure HTTPS connections. Without this support, sensitive information could be exposed over unencrypted channels, posing security risks. Another important point is how these browsers handle caching. Proper cache management is vital for both security and performance. If a browser doesn't handle cache correctly, it might store sensitive data longer than necessary or fail to update content properly, which can lead to security holes or outdated information. Now, looking specifically at WAP limitations, these are often related to the restricted capabilities of the protocol itself. WAP was designed for very basic mobile devices with limited processing power and display capabilities. This means it can't support some of the more advanced security features or functionalities that modern browsers offer. Overall, understanding these limitations helps us recognize where vulnerabilities might arise and why it's essential to adapt our security strategies when dealing with WAP and mobile browsers. They are inherently more restrictive, which can impact both security and user experience, making it a critical consideration in our mobile security planning. Let's take a closer look at Bluetooth security. First, we'll review the overview of the technology itself. Bluetooth is designed for short-range wireless communication, making it convenient for connecting devices like smartphones, headphones, and smart home gadgets. Next, we'll explore the key security features that help protect these connections. Pairing is the initial step where devices establish a trusted link. Authentication then verifies the identities of the devices involved, ensuring they're who they say they are. Authorization controls what devices are allowed to access certain data or services. Confidentiality is also critical. It encrypts the data transmitted to prevent eavesdropping. However, despite these security measures, Bluetooth devices and networks are still vulnerable. There are various threats, such as eavesdropping, man-in-the-middle attacks, and device impersonation. These vulnerabilities can expose sensitive information or allow unauthorized access. To mitigate these risks, it's important to follow best practices and recommendations. Regularly updating device firmware, avoiding insecure pairing methods, and being cautious about connecting to unknown devices can significantly enhance Bluetooth security. Connecting all these points helps us understand that while Bluetooth offers convenience, maintaining security requires ongoing vigilance and proper management. Let's take a closer look at the overview of the technology. Originally conceived at Ericsson Mobile Communications, this technology was developed to create a wireless keyboard system. Over time, it was adapted for a broader range of purposes, making it quite versatile. One of the most common uses is for wireless connectivity of devices like keyboards, mice, and printers. This allows for more flexibility and reduces clutter by eliminating the need for physical cables. Another key application is device synchronization, such as syncing your phone with a desktop computer. This makes transferring data seamless and efficient. Speaking of file transfers, it's also used for moving files or photos from a phone to a desktop or even a photo printer, which simplifies sharing and printing. Gaming is another area where this technology shines, especially with devices like Nintendo Wii remotes and Sony PS3 headsets, providing a wireless way to enhance the gaming experience. Then there's tethering, where your mobile phone acts as a modem, giving your laptop internet access via Bluetooth. This is particularly useful when you're on the go and need a reliable connection. Finally, it's also used in hands-free and voice-activated kits for mobile phones in cars, allowing safer, more convenient communication while driving. Overall, this technology has evolved from a simple idea at Ericsson into a key enabler for many wireless and connected device applications we rely on every day. Now, let's talk about Bluetooth pairing, which is a crucial part of the overall security architecture. Pairing is the process where two Bluetooth devices establish a connection and agree to communicate securely. This step is vital because it sets the foundation for all subsequent security features. During pairing, the devices exchange and agree on cryptographic keys that help identify and relate to each other. These keys are not just for recognition. They're also used to authenticate the devices and encrypt the communication, ensuring that data remains private and secure. Before Bluetooth version 2.1, pairing was relatively simple and involved entering a PIN code, which could be up to 128 bits long. While this worked, it wasn't the most secure approach, especially as threats evolved. That's why Bluetooth version 2.1 introduced a new feature called Secure Simple Pairing. This enhancement significantly improved security by using advanced cryptographic methods, specifically elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, for key exchange and link key generation. This means that pairing is now not only easier, but also much more secure, aligning with the overall goal of protecting our wireless communications from potential threats. Let's talk about Bluetooth security features, specifically authentication. Authentication is the process where one device confirms the identity of another device. Think of it as a way to ensure you're talking to the right device and not an imposter. In Bluetooth, we often use a challenge response mechanism. This involves the device claiming to be something and the other device verifying that claim. It's like a digital handshake. The verifier sends a challenge, which is usually a random number, to the claimant device. The claimant then responds with a response that's based on a function involving that random number, the device's Bluetooth address, and a secret key that was generated during pairing. This secret key is crucial because it's shared only between the two devices and helps confirm their identities securely. To prevent attackers from repeatedly trying to break into the connection, Bluetooth also implements a delay after an authentication failure. The verifier will wait before trying again, which helps protect against brute force attacks. Overall, these authentication features are vital for maintaining secure, trusted connections in Bluetooth communications, ensuring that only legitimate devices can connect. Let's talk about Bluetooth security features, starting with authorization. Authorization is really about making decisions on whether a device can access certain resources or establish a connection, based on the permissions it has been granted. It's a way to ensure that only trusted devices can connect or access sensitive data. Now, when we look at device trust levels, Bluetooth devices can be categorized as either trusted or untrusted. Trusted devices are ones you've previously paired with and that have full access to the system. Untrusted devices, on the other hand, haven't been paired before and typically have limited or restricted access. This distinction helps us control who can connect and what they can do. Moving on to service security levels, Bluetooth defines 3 different tiers. Level 1 services require both authentication and authorization, so the device has to prove who it is, and permission is checked before access is granted. Level 2 services need authentication only, meaning the device must verify its identity, but once verified, access is granted without additional permission checks. And finally, Level 3 services are completely open, no security measures at all, so they're accessible to any device without restrictions. Understanding these levels helps us see how Bluetooth manages security at different layers, depending on the sensitivity of the data or service involved. It's a crucial part of protecting our connections and ensuring that only authorized devices can access the right resources. Let's talk about Bluetooth security features, specifically confidentiality. Confidentiality is crucial because it ensures that the data transmitted over Bluetooth remains private and protected from eavesdropping. And the way Bluetooth achieves this is primarily through encryption. Bluetooth uses a stream cipher called E0 to encrypt data. Now, this encryption isn't just a one-size-fits-all solution. There are actually 3 different encryption modes that provide varying levels of security. First, there's Mode 1, which, quite simply, doesn't encrypt the data at all. So all the traffic in this mode is unencrypted, making it vulnerable to interception. Next, we have Mode 2. This mode encrypts the traffic between individual endpoints, so between 2 devices talking directly to each other. However, broadcast traffic, like data sent to multiple devices simultaneously, remains unencrypted in this mode. Finally, there's Mode 3, which offers the highest level of security among the 3. It encrypts both broadcast and point-to-point traffic, ensuring that all data exchanged over Bluetooth is protected from unauthorized access. Understanding these modes helps us see how Bluetooth balances security with functionality, depending on the specific needs of the application or environment. Today, I want to talk about some of the threats that Bluetooth devices and networks face. While Bluetooth technology offers great convenience, it's important to understand that it's also vulnerable to various security risks. For example, eavesdropping is a common threat, where someone might listen in on your Bluetooth communications without your knowledge. Impersonation is another risk, where an attacker pretends to be a trusted device to gain access. Denial of service attacks can disrupt your Bluetooth connections entirely, preventing devices from communicating. And man-in-the-middle attacks are particularly dangerous because they allow an attacker to intercept and potentially alter the data being exchanged between devices. But these aren't the only threats. Location tracking is a concern, as attackers can potentially track your device's movement over time, compromising your privacy. Key management issues also pose risks, especially if encryption keys are not handled securely, making it easier for attackers to break into networks or devices. There are more specific threats like bluejacking, which involves sending unsolicited messages to Bluetooth devices, often as a prank or scam. Implementation issues such as bluesnarfing and bluebugging are more serious. They can allow attackers to access or steal data from your device or even take control of it. Car whispering is another example, where malicious actors can eavesdrop on in-car Bluetooth communications. Overall, these threats highlight the importance of understanding Bluetooth security and taking steps to protect our devices and networks. As we rely more on Bluetooth technology, staying aware of these risks helps us use it safely and responsibly. Let's take a closer look at Bluetooth vulnerabilities across different versions. Starting with versions prior to V1.2, one major issue is that the unit key is reusable and becomes public once used. This means that once the key is shared, it doesn't change, making it easier for attackers to compromise the connection. Moving on to versions before V2.1, a significant weakness is that short pins are allowed. This makes pairing easier for attackers to guess or brute force. Additionally, the encryption key stream repeats, which can be exploited to uncover sensitive information. Now, regardless of the version, there are some common vulnerabilities. For example, the challenge response mechanism relies on an unknown RNG strength, which can weaken security. Also, the encryption key length is negotiable and can be as small as just 1 byte, drastically reducing security strength. The shared master key is another concern, as it can be a single point of failure if compromised. Lastly, the E0 stream cipher, used in some Bluetooth communications, is considered weak because it's susceptible to theoretical known plaintext attacks. Overall, these vulnerabilities highlight the importance of continuous updates and improvements in Bluetooth security protocols to protect user data and maintain trust in wireless communications. Let's discuss some key recommendations to enhance your Bluetooth security. First, it's important to use complex pins for your Bluetooth devices. This makes it harder for unauthorized users to gain access. In sensitive or high-security environments, you should also configure your Bluetooth devices to limit the power used by the radio. Reducing the transmission power minimizes the risk of eavesdropping or unauthorized connections. Another critical point is to limit the services and profiles available on your Bluetooth devices to only those that are absolutely necessary. This reduces the attack surface, making it harder for malicious actors to exploit vulnerabilities. Additionally, you should set your devices as non-discoverable except during the pairing process. This way, your device isn't constantly broadcasting its presence, which helps prevent unwanted connection attempts. Enabling mutual authentication for all Bluetooth communications is also essential. This ensures that both devices verify each other's identities before establishing a connection, adding an extra layer of security. You should also configure the maximum allowable size for encryption keys. Larger keys provide stronger encryption and help protect your data from interception. Finally, if a Bluetooth device is lost or stolen, it's crucial to unpair it from your system immediately. This prevents unauthorized access through that device. By following these recommendations, you're significantly strengthening the security of your Bluetooth connections and aligning with best practices for protecting sensitive information. Let's take a closer look at SMS security. First, we'll review what the Short Message Service, or SMS, entails. It's a simple text messaging service that most of us use daily, but it has its vulnerabilities. Then, we'll explore Multimedia Messaging Service, or MMS, which extends SMS by allowing images, videos, and other media. While MMS offers richer communication, it also introduces new security challenges. Next, we need to be aware of protocol attacks. These are attacks that target the underlying communication protocols, potentially allowing malicious actors to intercept or manipulate messages. Such vulnerabilities can compromise user privacy and data integrity. Finally, we'll discuss application attacks, which target the messaging apps themselves or the platforms they run on. These can include malware, phishing, or exploits designed to trick users or gain unauthorized access. Understanding these attack vectors is crucial because they highlight the importance of securing our messaging systems. As we continue to rely on SMS and MMS for personal and business communication, being aware of these risks helps us develop better defenses and promote safer usage overall. Let's take a closer look at the overview of the Short Message Service, or SMS. Essentially, SMS is designed to allow one mobile subscriber to send a short message, typically up to 160 characters, to another mobile subscriber. It's a simple yet powerful way to communicate quickly and efficiently. When the two phones are on the same carrier, the message is sent directly within that network, making the process smooth and seamless. However, things get a bit more interesting when the messages are sent between phones on different carriers. In that case, the message still gets delivered, but it involves additional routing through the networks of different providers. This interoperability is a key feature of SMS, enabling users to stay connected regardless of their carrier. Overall, SMS plays a vital role in mobile communication, connecting people across various networks with just a few clicks. Now, let's take a closer look at the overview of the Short Message Service, or SMS. When a raw SMS message is transmitted, it's referred to as a Protocol Data Unit, or PDU. This PDU isn't just the message content itself. It's a structured data packet that includes not only the message, but also several important header fields. These headers carry essential information needed for the message to be properly routed and understood by the receiving device. So, understanding the PDU structure is crucial because it forms the foundation of how SMS messages are formatted and transmitted across mobile networks. This ties back to our overall theme of understanding the technical backbone that enables the reliable delivery of messages we often take for granted. Let's delve into an overview of the Multimedia Messaging Service, or MMS. MMS allows users to send not just text, but also various types of media like images, audio, and video. This makes messaging much richer and more engaging compared to traditional text messages. Now, it's important to understand that MMS is fundamentally different from SMS, even though, from a user's perspective, they might seem quite similar. The key difference is what they can send and how they handle multimedia content. From a user standpoint, MMS offers a much broader range of communication options. Think about sharing photos or short videos instantly with friends or colleagues. To better understand this, we have a detailed diagram that illustrates how MMS works behind the scenes, showing the flow of multimedia data from sender to receiver. As we go through this, keep in mind that MMS is a crucial part of modern mobile communication, connecting us in more dynamic ways than ever before. Now let's take a closer look at protocol attacks. These are a bit sneaky because they involve abusing legitimate functionality. Essentially, attackers exploit features that are designed to be used for specific purposes, but are sometimes misused or manipulated in ways that weren't intended. For example, many of these attacks target administrative and provisioning communications. Think about updates or voicemail notifications. These are normal, trusted parts of the system, but if an attacker can hijack or manipulate these channels, they can cause real harm. Another key area is attacking protocol implementations. This is more about vulnerabilities in how the protocols are built into devices or networks. Attackers look for weaknesses in the actual code or design, aiming to send corrupted messages, like malicious SMS, that can trick a phone into executing hostile code. Overall, these types of attacks highlight how attackers can exploit the very functions meant to keep our communication systems running smoothly. Recognizing these tactics is crucial for defending against them and ensuring our systems stay secure. Let's talk about some protocol attacks that involve abusing legitimate functionality. First up is the WAP push attack. This is when attackers send malicious WAP push messages to trick users or to deliver harmful content without their knowledge. It exploits the standard messaging process, but with malicious intent. Next, we have MMS notification attacks, where attackers send fake multimedia message notifications to lure users into clicking malicious links or downloading harmful content. Moving on, there's the battery draining attack. This involves sending or triggering activities that cause a device to consume excessive power, which can be used to disrupt service or gather information based on how devices respond to such drain. Then, there's the silent billing attack. Here, attackers manipulate the billing process to charge users without their consent, often by exploiting vulnerabilities in the billing protocols. Lastly, we have the OTA settings attack. This targets over-the-air configuration settings, allowing attackers to change device settings remotely, which can lead to control over the device or further exploits. These attacks highlight how legitimate functions can be turned into vectors for malicious activities, emphasizing the importance of robust security measures in protocols. Let's talk about application attacks. These target applications that use SMS as a delivery mechanism. Unlike protocol attacks, which tend to be more general and often work across different versions, application attacks are very specific to the particular software versions running on phones. That means attackers often craft exploits tailored to a specific app version to maximize their chances of success. Most vulnerabilities in applications tend to fall into a few categories: browser vulnerabilities, issues in MMS clients, or problems with images. For example, the iPhone Safari vulnerability results in a heap overflow after a user views a malicious page within Safari on the device. This can allow an attacker to execute arbitrary code on the iPhone, which is quite serious. Another example is with the Motorola RAZR. There's a JPG overflow vulnerability caused by how the device parsed thumbprints in the JPG EXIF header. This vulnerability allows an attacker to execute arbitrary code simply by tricking the device into opening a malicious JPG image. So overall, these application vulnerabilities highlight how specific and targeted these attacks can be, often exploiting particular software quirks or bugs in the applications running on mobile devices. Recognizing these vulnerabilities helps us appreciate the importance of secure coding and thorough testing in mobile app development. Let's take a closer look at mobile geolocation. First, we have the different methods of geolocation, which include GPS, Wi-Fi, cell tower triangulation, and IP address detection. Each of these methods varies in accuracy and use cases, so understanding them helps us choose the right approach for our needs. Next, we consider how to implement geolocation in practice. For Android devices, we typically use the Location Services API, while on iPhones, we rely on Core Location. Both platforms offer robust tools, but they also come with their own permissions and privacy considerations we need to manage carefully. Now, moving on to the risks associated with geolocation services. For end users, there's the concern of privacy invasion or unauthorized tracking. Service providers, on the other hand, must handle location data securely to prevent breaches or misuse. Finally, let's touch on best practices for geolocation. It's essential to always obtain user consent transparently, to minimize the collection of data to only what's necessary, and to implement strong security measures to protect the information. Keeping these principles in mind allows us to leverage geolocation effectively while respecting user privacy and maintaining trust, which ties back to our overall theme of responsible data management. Let's take a closer look at some common geolocation methods. First up is tower triangulation, which has an accuracy range of about 50 meters to 1,000 meters. This is actually the oldest widely used method for locating a phone. It works by analyzing the relative power levels of radio signals between the cell phone and multiple cell towers. Basically, it estimates your position based on how strong the signals are from different towers. However, it does require at least 2 cell towers to work effectively. One thing to keep in mind is that this method can be fairly inexact, especially because the signal strength can vary due to distance, obstacles, or interference. Next, we have GPS, which offers a much higher level of precision, typically around 5 to 15 meters. Instead of relying on cell towers, GPS uses signals from satellites orbiting the Earth. This makes it highly accurate, but it does have some limitations, like indoors, where reception can be poor or even unavailable. The big advantage of GPS is that it can provide continuous tracking updates, making it ideal for real-time applications such as navigation or location-based services. So, in summary, while tower triangulation has been a foundational approach, GPS has become the standard for precision and real-time tracking in many modern applications. Both methods play a role in how we locate and understand positioning today. Let's take a closer look at geolocation methods, starting with 802.11. The accuracy here typically ranges from about 10 meters up to 200 meters, but it's important to note that it can sometimes be erroneous. Interestingly, the iPhone was the first smartphone to utilize this approach, leveraging an API from Skyhook Wireless. This technology uses data from wireless access points to build a large, war-driving database, which essentially maps the locations of Wi-Fi networks across different areas. This method allows devices that don't have GPS capabilities to determine their location with potentially high accuracy, which is a huge advantage. It's also faster and often more precise than traditional tower triangulation used in cell networks. However, there are some drawbacks. Since this method depends heavily on wireless access points, any movement of those access points can affect the accuracy. So if a Wi-Fi router is moved, the location data might become less reliable. Google Latitude service offers a newer implementation of Skyhook's technology, improving upon these methods. Overall, this approach highlights how leveraging existing wireless infrastructure can enhance location accuracy, especially for devices without GPS, aligning with our broader theme of diverse and innovative geolocation strategies. Now, let's talk about how geolocation implementation works on Android. Permission to use geolocation features is requested through the program manifest, and importantly, this permission is granted by the user at the time of installation. When it comes to the specific permissions, there are 2 main types. First, we have access course location, which is used for less precise location data like cell tower triangulation or Wi-Fi positioning. Then there's access fine location, which provides more accurate data, typically via GPS. Sometimes, you might want to request only fine location services if your app needs precise location data. Other times, requesting both coarse and fine location permissions makes sense if your app can benefit from both levels of detail. The The key takeaway here is understanding which permissions your app needs and how to properly request them, ensuring you respect user privacy while providing the necessary functionality. This ties back to our overall theme of building responsible and user-friendly location-aware applications. All right, let's talk about how geolocation works specifically on the iPhone. When an app wants to access your location, it requires your approval each time you launch it. This means you're in control, and you can decide whether or not to share your location with that app. Now, iPhones offer different levels of accuracy for location data, depending on what the app needs. For example, CL location accuracy best provides the most precise location information, which is useful for navigation or detailed mapping. Then, there's CL location accuracy nearest 10 meters, which is a bit less precise but still quite accurate, within 10 meters. Moving further out, we have CL location accuracy 100 meters, which is suitable for broader location needs, like local weather apps. And finally, CL location accuracy 3 kilometers, which is used when approximate location is sufficient, such as for some social media features. It's also important to understand the location permissions dialog you see on the iPhone. This dialog asks for your permission whenever an app requests your location, and it's designed to make sure you're aware of when your data is being shared. This process ties back to our overall theme of privacy and user control, emphasizing how vital it is to manage these permissions actively. So, in summary, on the iPhone, geolocation is precise but controlled, requiring your approval every time, with various levels of accuracy tailored to different app needs. Let's take a closer look at the risks associated with geolocation services from the end-user perspective. When your positional data is stored on remote servers, and that data can be linked back to you personally, it opens up a new risk for data theft. This isn't just about privacy. It can also have serious legal implications if that information falls into the wrong hands. Another point to consider is the voluntary broadcasting of your location, like when using apps such as Foursquare. While it might seem harmless or even fun, it can unfortunately lead to stalking or harassment if that information is accessed by malicious actors. So, what should we keep in mind? First, it's crucial to understand the privacy and data retention policies that govern how your positional information is handled. Who has access to it, and how long is it stored? Second, be aware of third-party sharing and the channels through which your data might be transferred. And finally, in the event law enforcement requests access to this data, there should be clear procedures in place to handle those requests properly and ethically. All these points highlight the importance of being aware of how geolocation data is managed and the potential risks involved, tying back to the overall theme of safeguarding user privacy in our increasingly connected world. Let's talk about some of the risks that come with providing geolocation services, particularly from the perspective of service providers. One major concern is the risk of negative publicity that can arise from data breaches or legal actions like subpoenas. If sensitive location data gets exposed or misused, it can lead to serious reputation damage. Additionally, there's a danger that third parties could use this data to track individual users, potentially aiding criminal activities or infringing on privacy rights. It's also worth noting that often, the geolocation data stored is not strictly necessary for the core functionality of the service. This means providers should carefully consider whether collecting and storing such data is truly essential. Another key point is the legal obligation to adhere to privacy regulations, such as the Data Protection Act in the UK. Complying with these laws isn't just about avoiding fines, it's about respecting user privacy and maintaining trust. So overall, while geolocation services offer many benefits, providers need to be aware of these risks and manage them carefully to protect both their users and their reputation. Let's talk about some best practices for using geolocation data responsibly and ethically. First, always use the least precise measurement necessary. This helps protect user privacy while still allowing you to meet your goals. Next, make sure to discard the data after you've used it. Holding on to it longer than needed increases risk. It's also crucial to keep the data anonymous whenever possible, so individuals can't be personally identified. Another key point is to clearly indicate when tracking is enabled. Transparency builds trust with your users. Use an opt-in model, meaning users should actively agree to share their location rather than being opted in by default. Having a clear privacy policy that explains how you handle geolocation data is essential too. And remember, never share geolocation data with other users or third parties unless absolutely necessary and compliant with laws. Familiarize yourself with local laws and regulations. Privacy laws vary by region, and it's important to stay compliant. By following these practices, you not only respect user privacy, but also build a trustworthy relationship with your audience, which is vital in today's data-driven world.